Hi, Jeff again with more Blunt Talk about Bernie. This time I want to go off on a bit of a different track. I wanted to deal with some things that are beliefs we have that make it hard to see where we're going and what we need to do as a society through our government. And I think since these involve a little bit of philosophy or thinking about the issues, they need to take these one at a time in each segment. So I'm going to deal with one of the larger ones this segment. And belief in our individuality, the importance of individualism, is probably the one that is most difficult to deal with. Americans tout themselves on that. And to the point where the belief is carried out in everything and becomes a kind of myth that we can't get away from. And it might go something like this. Let me phrase it like this. The individual acting in self interest is the source of our greatness. Government is only needed to keep the relationships among individuals fair, just, and safe from harm. The old, your right to swing your fist ends where my nose begins. Otherwise, society takes care of itself. Pretty much. We're a collection of individuals. That's what society is. That's really the upshot of that. That might make superficial sense. We look at other nations, like in Europe, where society is more important. We go further afield to Asia, where it may be still more important not to be so much of an individual. You know, the old saw that's maybe a simplification. We say the peg that stands up gets hammered down in society. It's like the opposite of our entrepreneurship and get up and go kind of thing. The thing is, the truth is probably, it's a mix of both, but we overemphasize the individual. And I could point that out in a couple of different senses. The question I normally tell people to ask if they think society is nothing that doesn't more or less take care of itself if we're well behaved and go about our interest as individuals, it kind of gets fixed in the mix, like when you're mixing and producing music. Don't worry about that detail now. We'll fix it later. The idea that everybody doing different things, eventually they all adjust and it comes out. It doesn't really work that way. And if you ask yourself one question, name a thing in life that does not require maintenance. So you just acquire it or build it, and that's it. It goes perpetually. Of course, there is nothing. We've got to maintain our house, got to maintain our lawns, got to maintain our car, our relationships, whether it's a spouse, a child, a boss, whatever it happens to be. What happens when you don't change the oil in your car? If you wait until it needs to be changed, until there are ugly noises or worse, the thing stops, it's not just a really dirty clogged filter you're changing and another 4 or 5 quarts you're putting in, but you've done major damage to your engine system. So we're dealing with more than that. It's not that simple to say I can reduce maintenance to just this if it happens to need it. Let's wait until it screams out. Or let's not repair those roads or those bridges until they actually fall down or break up. It's a problem. You can't approach life in that way, and we can't approach society in that way, our own society that we live in. The tendency to go the individual route, have that individualistic bent, though, does make us think about the things we have to do to maintain society with some resistance, and we try to reject them as much as possible. So, all taxes are bad. If I could get away with paying none, I would. But I want to pay as few as possible. I want to know that they're going toward things I value, not somebody else values. I'm not thinking about the whole. Doesn't that kind of take care of itself? If everybody's getting what they need, let them fight for their own needs. That doesn't work. Giving away free stuff is a corollary of that. Bernie's been characterized that way in terms of talking about public education that is free. Free to those who really want to be students and are able to stay the course, make something of themselves, and get through it. But if we're highly individualist, we look at it as money eventually coming out of my pocket. I'm not going to school. They are. I don't know their circumstances. I don't know them. I don't wish them poorly. But take care of yourself. It's your own thing. It's survival of the fittest kind of thing. It's not that their education, you're not looking at it as if it's going to benefit me in the future. Whereas I've always thought, and I see it around me, I have not had kids most of my life. And when I'm with colleagues, including very conservative ones, I said, look, I don't begrudge at all paying school taxes, paying taxes that support schools, higher ones even than what we're currently doing, because I want your kids to be educated. I want them to feel valued in the world, to learn something, to contribute. I have to live with them. We're all in the same society. Why would I wish ill for your children? So, see my point? One other thing, this is a bigger one and a bit more philosophical. Individualistic bent of concentrating only on the individual gives us a reaction, especially if we think we're constitutionalists, about what government does to create programs that benefit other people more than me. I don't know how it helps me, but it's not directly, so I can't see it. The thing is, government does too much of this stuff that they base on the idea that it's for the general welfare clause in the preamble. And the preamble goes, the purpose of the Constitution is establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Scholars say the last two, the general welfare and the blessings of liberty, are what the other three lead up to, and it's the culmination of why we have the Constitution and try to govern ourselves the way we are. But the important thing to understand is all of that stuff is important. The preamble is a guide to how the Constitution is used. This is not the situation with another like a preface in a book or a foreword or an introduction or something. That's not really part of the book. The book is chapter 1, Call Me Ishmael. That's where the plot begins. All the rest is window dressing. In the Constitution, it's just the articles. It's the enumerating the branches of government, their powers, and we got the Bill of Rights attached to that. That's the meat. That's what it's really about, and you only focus on those things. Well, no. Those things are supposed to be applied for purposes enumerated in the preamble, which has a much different, that's a much more serious definition than a preface. You have to understand that, and if you're an originalist, you would know that. That's what the Founding Fathers meant. We need to keep that in mind. That's why we do what we do, and the entire background of the values and principles Bernie believes in are just behind the issues he's always hammering on, all related to working with the general welfare. We've got to attend it. That's what government's for. It's supposed to help. It's all of us. It's not just some of us, and it trickles down the rest of the way to others of us. We need to address, all of us, we need to address things that are real needs, and we need to fund them. I'm going to leave it at that so this doesn't go over time. We'll get on to another one in a shorter segment. Thanks for being with me.